times
right.
for all kinds of reasons. However, everything I've ever seen, heard, whatever, people I've worked with, there is not as much harm in the entire experience I have with this encounter phenomenon as we do to each other in a single day.
Hear, hear.
So there is not any suggestion that these are the films like Independence Day notwithstanding, there is not a shred of evidence that these beings wish to do us harm. The worst that could be said is what Dave Jacobs said, which is that they are changing our nature in some way, that they are cohabitating with us in such a way that we are being transformed. But as far as I could tell, that could only be for the better.
Well, Dr. Jacobs did, however, allow for the fact they may not be friendly.
That's what I'm saying. In other words, that they may not be friendly. But I mean, I think his position is rather extreme in that respect. And I don't say whether they're good guys or bad guys. I don't see it that way. Some of the experiences are traumatic, and some are transformative in a positive way. It depends a lot on the consciousness of the person having the experience. In any event, the fact is that something's going on here, and it's not malevolent in the way we are when we make war upon each other or upon the environment. And I can't see that. And I think people, if prepared appropriately or just simply told this is what's going on, they kind of know it anyway, you know. And if it was presented in a truthful, honest, balanced way, I think the people are much more ready for this than the alarmists would have us think.
All right. Back to the trial concept for a second. 3 retired federal judges, they'd be a tough sell. I get little computer messages. Bob in Austin, Texas says, Professor Mack, a court will want empirical evidence. Do you have it?
Well, this is the old thing. You know, empirical evidence is, that's the metaphysical question. Yes, there is evidence. Yes, there are cuts, scoop marks, things on people's bodies. There are some kind of suggestion of implants. There are hints that people are missing sometimes. But the three-dimensional physical evidence is thin. But what has happened in our world, in our culture, is that we only understand knowledge that is in this three-dimensional physical proof framework. There is the whole range of experiences that people have known throughout history of encounters beyond this three-dimensional world, which we've cut ourselves away from, and that you can't necessarily prove something by the methods of the physical sciences, even though there is physical evidence, I should say, point out. It does not mean that the phenomenon isn't of enormous importance. So if we kind of wait around to be able to do, you know, as Carl Sagan used to say, wait till the log of the captain of the UFO falls in a field, you know. I mean, that's absurd. First of all, it takes it much too literally, but also since there is so much resistance to even acknowledging that there's anybody out there besides ourselves, that the teenage boys that found such a log, for instance, in the field would be psychiatrically examined and accused of doing a hoax, and then the document itself would be looked at and shown to be some ancient thing from a tribe that used to live there. And, you know, it's a matter of what we're able to perceive and take in at this point. And the metaphysical piece, which you brought up several times, has to do with what we feel qualifies as knowledge. In other words, a witness who tells us about an experience they've had which is extraordinarily life-changing and which is not psychiatric, with some kind of entity that changed their lives and which follows a pattern that is now familiar to me and to many workers. This is enormously important. Can we prove it by the methods of three-dimensional science? No. Does that mean it's not of fundamental importance? No. So we're going to have to expand our whole way of knowing what in philosophy, metaphysics, as you called it, is called epistemology. You know, is how we know things. We need to find a way of knowing in these interdimensional studies, which are as reliable as the methods of knowing in the empirical science field.
In such a trial, if you were asked what other professional witnesses, other than yourself, would you think it would be valuable to call, what kind of names would you bring forward?
Well, I don't want to name names because it's going to bring, drags people into this right now who might not feel ready to be,
yes, I understand,
fingered like that. But okay. I can tell you the type of people you'd want astrophysicists. You'd want people, of course, in the UFO field that have seen the UFOs and have the photographs and have done the careful field work about people who've seen the UFOs. I'd want to have people that have worked with people that have had the encounter experiences, as well as the so-called abductees themselves. I would want to have philosophers on there that can help us think about knowing in a more expanded, intelligent way. Historians of science that can look at what happens when a whole new phenomenon has confronted the human species in the past, like, it wasn't until the 18th century that it was officially considered possible that meteorites could fall from the sky.
That's true.
There's a background to resistance of new knowledge in human psychohistory, if you will.
Going back to what you said about the Earth being in trouble, I couldn't agree more. But our economy and the third world nations that are following in our footsteps, well, Doctor, they all want what we have. They want, a car, maybe someday a dream of 2 cars. They want a house, and they want to be warm in the winter and cool in the summer. And, basically they want everything we have. And if they get it, then we're not all going to get there, are we?
Well, the whole question of standards of living, does it depend on
energy,
fossil fuel consumption and SUVs that get 12 miles to the gallon? My little Honda can get 30 miles to the gallon, which is a third of that, and is it possible to develop fuel economies or methods of transportation and heating our houses that don't destroy the environment at the rate that we're doing? In other words, could conservation, from an energy point of view, I agree with you, we should take the lead in this, since we consume, what are we, 3 or 4% of the world's, 5% of the world's population, and consume 25% of the energy, something like that.
That's about right.
We would have to take the lead in what would you say, in abstinence, with reducing our own addiction to consumption.
But we're not leading, though, are we?
No, we're not. But I think it starts at home. We can't sort of broadcast what the rest of the world should do until we begin ourselves to take responsibility as leaders, some kind of sane behavior around consumption. I don't hear conservation as a big part of the environmental program of this country right now.
No.
By conservation, I also mean at an individual level. So,
actually, our entire economy is based pretty much right now on consumption, information, consumption. We've changed all around. So, bearing in mind that this is the direction that we're headed right now, and we don't seem to be taking many detours, and if this continues and the rest of the world follows us as a model, which they will, because, boy, you send Hollywood movies around the world and we're the example, we're what you want to be like, then where are we going?
Well, I'm not a social engineer. I think just more and more people like yourself who reach many people write on this subject. I think there's this great emphasis in the economy on growth is a unquestioned good thing. Every day you read, did the economy grow? Well,
that's right.
Think about that growth. What does that growth mean? Does that mean spilling more pollutants into the environment? Does growth have to mean that? Can growth mean increase in educational capability? Can growth mean more value that comes from services? Can growth mean